Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having us. I'm Dr. Deb Adair. I'm the Executive Director at Quality Matters, and steering today's presentation is Dr. Yaping Gao, who's our Senior Academic Director, and we are very happy to be here this afternoon. And I'll kick us off here with a little overview of what we have planned for today. And Yaping, if you'll advance the slide. We're happy to talk about quality matters, just to give you a general overview, and the things that we think are important to consider, especially from the faculty perspective. And I'm going to stop a minute and just say, speaking of the faculty perspective, I'm very interested in your experiences over the last few years with remote and blended and online education, and if your experiences were were challenging, and if they were positive, and or if you haven't yet engaged in that format, just your initial reactions to your thoughts about that. If you want to put any of that in the chat as we go through, it would sort of anchor us a little bit as we go through the presentation. But our focus for today is going to be on, obviously, what we do at QM is about ensuring quality at the course program and institutional levels. And we really want to talk about and have a conversation about the benefits and impact, we say, of QM implementation and the particular process that we talk about, but really it's a quality assurance process to ensure the quality of the blended and online courses, and in particular to kind of take the student perspective in thinking about quality. And so really that is what QM is all about. And when we say the student perspective, we really mean trying to look at the course from the student's perspective. But most of how Quality Matters has been built has been from the faculty perspective. So considering the faculty are the core of the teaching and learning experience. So we will talk a little bit about the faculty role in that quality teaching and learning, and from QM's perspective in the ability to engage around the QM process. And we will end up with some brief takeaways, and then we'll sort of launch into a Q&A process. And throughout the presentation, there'll be a variety of hyperlinks to resources and information that we won't be actually navigating to during the presentation, but if we will go to them in the Q&A if they're relevant questions. And if you just want to see anything that we have hyperlinked, we're happy to share it, but we want to kind of make sure that we're staying on time and go through the presentation. So Yaping, I will turn this over to you.
Okay, thanks, Deb. So in my current position at QM, I oversee member services, and I also lead collaborations, outside USA. So this is part of the things that I'm most proud of to show off, because if you look at the map, our member institutions are really all over the world. And the QM has been serving the community for almost 20 years now. And just about 2 years ago, we mainly focused on serving the online learning community, but because of the pandemic, everybody has now come to realize it's very important to make investment not only in technology, but also more importantly in pedagogy and in faculty professional development. So because technology itself is not enough, technology does not equal to quality teaching and learning. Faculty are the key. You have the crucial role to make things happen, to help students all succeed. So if you look at the map, we started from the US North America, but we have quite a few countries in Latin America. And then if you look at the Middle East region, Europe, Asia, And we are so very proud of UAE University. And we also have other 5 institutions in UAE as part of the QM community. So we're just so very proud and so happy to have this opportunity to engage with all of you.
Just have to remember to unmute. As Yeping said, Quality Matters started out in the United States, but we really do have a broad participation, and both Yeping and I engaged internationally. I was recently elected as the 8th president for INQUAHE, which is the International Network for Quality Assurance Agencies in Higher Education. And I have, this is my 2nd term on the board, just as a director initially, and then as treasurer now as president. And I can say that the work that we do in quality assurance for online education is top of mind for quality assurance providers everywhere. And it's interesting that I think one of the outcomes of the pandemic is that we're having many of the same conversations everywhere, both from QM's perspective and from quality assurance agencies' perspective. And it really is about, the need that we see for higher education to be able to, respond to the current trends and student needs and challenges and what that means for quality assurance organizations. So it's very interesting to us, and Yeping and I talk about this a lot, that the same issues gets raised and the same, we have the same conversations and concerns no matter where we're talking now, because in a way we're all sort of back into the same situation. So it gives us an opportunity to collaborate and work together, and I think that's the powerful thing. So Yeping, I'll let you talk a little bit about ICDE. You're muted, Yeping. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So while Deb is leading this very established, very large international organizations of quality assurance agencies, I myself has also participate in International Council of Open and Distance Education. And this is an organization that mostly composed of institutions, higher education institutions, but focus more on online education. So, so I have been serving this since 2019 before the pandemic, and this is also my term too. And QM actually represent the North American region. So we really hear concerns, questions, as Deb was saying, it's the same question. Every time we have an opportunity to engage with especially faculty, the first question is, how do I ensure that, I can still do my final exam? How do I ensure my students cannot, do not cheat? And then question number 2 is, how do I engage students? So I just saw the question in the chat, it's the student engagement, that is the key. So we will spend quite some time talking about these important issues. So Deb, you want to go back?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So Quality Matters we've been doing what we've been doing for the past 15 plus years. And initially, I mean, there are 3 core pieces to Quality Matters that we have been promoting and continuing to develop over those years, and that institutions engage with for quality, I would say quality control aspects, but really quality assurance. And one is the research supported rubrics and standards, and they continue to evolve. We continue to keep those standards anchored to the research literature and updated, and so they're current and robust standards. There's the professional development offerings and pathways, and the pathways are really about, and we'll talk a little bit about those in more detail later, but really about professional development around creating online courses, improving online courses, but also pathways about pedagogy and how to teach online, because all of that matters. All of that is important for the student experience. And then the third core piece for Quality Matters has been the the peer review process for courses and programs. And that diagram that you see there, the circle diagram, we'll come back to that a little bit more in terms of where faculty are involved in the process. And the spoiler alert is the faculty are involved all the way through the process, because faculty are at the core of what we do. But those are the three pieces, and what really makes that work in terms of driving to a quality experience for students is the process that the institution will use to implement these core pieces. And the thing about Quality Matters, and I want to underscore this, because it, the benefit of really focusing on these three pieces is they can be contextualized for the institution. And I think you can see that with the slide Yaping showed with our international engagement, and that these three pieces kind of serve as a foundation that institutions can take and adapt for their own particular context, because I think that's important. We've always got to have that balance between the things that are broadly applicable, that become the foundation for the standards and what quality means, and then the ability to customize that for institutional context. And so that's a line we're always trying to walk at Quality Matters, and I think largely successful, because you can see the broad participation. So the end of the end game here for us is student success and institutional advancement. So Quality Matters mission is to improve online learning and online education and student learning. So we're squarely focused on the teaching and learning piece, with the end result being student success and institutional advancement. So these are, the rubric is organized into 8 general standards, and within each of these standards, there's specific review standards. But these are the 8 general standards, and actually we have rubrics for higher education, for K through 12 education, and through continuing and professional education. And they are all organized around these 8 general areas that we have found to be critical, and that the research supports to be critical for student success. So this is the 42 specific review standards. I will say that the way that we work is the standards themselves, and you can kind of see this in the graphic that shows the standard document. So those are just sort of brief statements that stand for, describe the general standard, but we have the full rubric that accompanies this, has very detailed descriptions of what that really means in practice. Here are some examples of situations that would meet the standard and ones that don't, and it really is designed to help anybody who is thinking about looking at a course for quality, to see whether or not to understand those standards and to try to apply them to that particular course. And so that work to create not just the standards, but that document that supports it, the rubric, that takes us about 1.5 years to update those. And it always starts with research. It always starts with what the research has to say about student learning, and we try to make sure that we are always current with that. And then we involve the community of faculty and instructional designers who are actively using the rubric. There's a committee that we form. And so it really represents sort of this action research project that actually actively involves the community in developing those standards. So it's not something that the Quality Matters staff, which is quite small, by the way, it's not something that we do sort of, in the back office and we create this thing. It's a very robust, engaging process to put these together. And as always, it's very learner-centered. The language is meant to be very spare. And so that doesn't always come across, but when you look at the rubric and you look at the intentionality of the whole thing, It's wrapped around being learner-centered. It is throughout the rubric, you'll see that these standards are not a checklist because they sometimes refer to other standards because it's meant to be this coherent whole. And some standards assume or anticipate or related to something that's already going to be in place because of another standard. And one of those concepts that's fundamental to the rubric, and actually everything QM does, is the principle of alignment. And I think, yeah, Ping will be talking about that principle later, but it is the foundation. And really it's as simple as what all faculty know, that what you want to do is your objectives, your learning objectives for your students, you want to make sure that you're creating a coherent course that actively supports those learning objectives, so that the assessments, how you assess whether the student has met those objectives, the materials that you're using, the activities, the technologies you choose, all should be purpose-built to support those learning objectives. And that alignment is articulated throughout the full rubric. And again, you'll see call outs in the rubric for different use cases, like for blended or hybrid learning. And in our next, we're actually getting ready to start that year-and-a-half process for the update. We've actually started the year-and-a-half process for the next update of the rubric. And in this next one, we'll be more fully articulating blended, because that's become a much more popular modality. And the same thing with competency-based education. And so they're there now, but we will be elaborating more on them. And the last point about these standards is that they are agnostic to the LMS or specific tools. They're not prescriptive standards. There are many ways to meet these standards.
So as Deb shared, the rubric, the standards, and I happen to have the hard copy, so I just want to share again. So this is the one-page standards, and each of them is just a statement. And as a member, you have a full access to that. And I also happen to have the annotated rubric. That means each standard has all the annotations, etc., etc. And you can certainly order hard copies, or you already have access to the PDF version of that. So most of our PD offerings, professional development, workshops, and the courses, etc., are based on the research, based on the standards, based on what we have learned, the best practice. So on the screen, this is just a quick example, and we will go into more detail into PD. Just an example of what kind of training that QM offers based on your role. So if you're a faculty, if you are an online instructor, or you are teaching hybrid, or if you are pretty new to online teaching, or if you are admin, or if you're just a staff member, instruction designers, etc., or if you're a QM coordinator at UAEU, we have different pathways for you to achieve your goal based on your role. So we will go into detail a little bit more later on. Dr. Adair also mentioned the peer review process. And the first thing we want to explain is what does it mean by peer? Peer means a faculty to faculty, online instructor to online instructor. So for example, I have been at QM, this is my year 7 already. I cannot believe it that I'm going into year 7. Time just goes so fast. But before I joined QM as a staff, I was a peer reviewer. I was a master reviewer because I was working at the institution and higher education institution here. And I was also teaching online. So I was a peer. I was considered as an online instructor who was specifically QM trained to be a QM certified peer review. So I was in a pool where when QM received from the member community to have an official QM review, they will assemble a review team. So the team is composed of one master review and 2 other peer reviews. So this is the composition of the peer review team. They are your peers. Faculty review other faculty's courses at other institutions. So since you all are faculty, one of the things that as you get started, you can think about, there is a pathway for you. Every one of you can become a QM certified peer review, and we're going to share more. So the peer review process itself is institutions submit a course for review, a staff here, QM staff will do a little paperwork just to ensure, all the informations are available. Then the chair, who is the master review, will organize a pre-review conference just to make sure everybody understands, and the institutions will provide access to the review. We ask for student access. So, and just as Deb shared, we look at everything from the student perspective. And your course can meet QM standards in any kind of way, but when the students log in, they should be able to easily navigate and, step by step, from week 1 all the way to the end. So, and then the peer review team will conduct their review independently, and that takes about 4 to 5 weeks. And then they will reconvene, and then the institution will receive a very detailed final report. We have many institutions in the community, who do not have a big budget to do many official course reviews, but they do at least one official review to use it as a benchmark a tool. Because once you have one official review, in the final report, there's all sorts of recommendations, very specific, very constructive, that you can use to improve all of your courses in your program, or even at the entire institution. You can use those recommendations and tips and things like that to improve your course template. So the course review process is really very effective and is impactful, because once one course is reviewed and improved, you improve other courses, and every time the course is taught, as well as all the other courses, it helps all the students who are taking those courses. So we will go a little bit more detail later. And if the course meets standards, then you will have the official QM certification mark that you can use for 5 years. And if the course still does not meet certain QM standards, there's 2 criteria for course in order for course to be QM certified. One is of the 42 specific standards here, about half of them are essential standards, and these essential standards, your course have to meet all of them. And the other is of the total of 100 points, the course needs to achieve 85 or more. And in case one of the criteria is not met yet, you will have a few months time to make improvements, resubmit, and then the course can be QM certified. So hold your question at the end. I know there will be a lot of questions on that one. So let me go down. So yes, so at the course level, as Deb mentioned, we have course review for higher education. We also do K-12 and K-12 publisher, higher education publisher, as well as continuing and professional education. So basically, we can do course review from K-20, the entire education range. The past 4 or 5 years, we also have been serving the community with program reviews and program certification. QM did start with course reviews and standards for course design. But over the years, the community has been doing so well. They embrace it. They adapt the QM standards and process to achieve their institutional goal or the outcomes for their program, etc. But they ask for more. They would say, well, our courses are good. Our faculties are very well trained. And they're more engaging. They're more effective in teaching online and the hybrid courses. But what about our programs? We want to offer more online MBA program, online accounting program, or even hybrid nursing, health science. How can we ensure that our programs are of quality? So if you look at the screen, for the program certification, all the courses, of course, are the foundation, right? Because this is the academic curriculum for the program. So that is online program design. But then because the faculty are teaching online or hybrid, then you need to provide support before they teach, during the time they're teaching, and after they teach. And the students, of course, because they are online students that enroll in your program, if they're not on campus, you need to provide all the support and resources to them. Last but not least, how are your online learner, online students doing compared with the on-campus counterpart? So because outcome is outcome, competencies are competencies. If you are enrolled in this program, the competencies, the outcomes are the same, whether you deliver the program online, hybrid, or face-to-face. The learning outcomes are the same. So let me go on, and I think I can take a little bit further, Deb, right? Okay. So I just want to share the screen here. There is an organization, and a lot of you may be aware. It's called Angel Course. It's based in USA, but it's really also an international organization, and they focus on education and education technology. So they have this report, annual report, focused on teaching and learning. Last year, 2021, because of the pandemic, if they are in the report, they do all the survey, study, and the research, etc. The top trend in higher education, and they predict the first one is hybrid. Because of the pandemic, everybody realized, they have to make the program, the institution more resilient. So, but there are certain pieces of the programs needs to be in person. So hybrid is a mood to go moving forward. And then, of course, we have all the technologies, the learning analytics behind LMS, and all the technologies, artificial intelligence, is embedded in everything that we do, right? And then micro-credentialing, because, you need to meet the demands of the community, of the society, right? So we need to connect what the higher education provide to the labor market, what the market is needing. And then OER, right? Because it's we are in the age where everything needs to happen in the digital learning environment. So it's more important, and it's in a sense a bit easier to use open education resources. Quality online education, digital learning. This one, for the first time ever in 2021, rise to the top 5. And this has never happened. And that is because of the pandemic. Because of the pandemic, everybody was pushed overnight to do remote teaching, right? But as we all know, remote teaching does not equal quality online education, quality digital learning. So quality has never been such of such importance until the pandemic happened, really. So that's why I want to point your attention to your hybrid mode of teaching and learning, and also the effort, the investment your institution, your college, your school, your programs are putting into ensure the quality of your offerings. So if we look at the institution, it's really kind of like a pyramid or a triangle. At the very bottom, the foundation of the institution is teaching and learning, right? You, faculty, you help, you teach, and you help your students succeed, meaning achieve all the learning outcomes, competencies, etc. And then at the mid-level is the program. An institution offers 20, 200 programs. You want to ensure the quality of those programs. And then at the institutional level, that is the institutional goal. That's at the very top, right? So the institution accreditation, if you are the president, that accreditation is number one for you. And then you also, you're concerned about students' graduation rate, completion rate, retention, and, even after the students graduate, they go into the market, they find a job, the employer satisfaction with your students, etc., etc. So the purpose here, even if you are a faculty teacher, and you think, these top things don't concern me, I'm just teaching. Yes, you are teaching day in and day out, but you are the backbone and you are the foundation. It is because of you as a faculty, everything happens. So Dr. Adair mentioned earlier, one of the fundamental principles of what QM does is the alignment of the principle of alignment. And Dr. Adair shared all the standards are really interrelated. They are also aligned with each other. So at the course level, as a faculty, what you can start to think about is, first of all, how do I improve my course? You do not have to be an instructional designer in order to improve the course. You know the learning objectives for each and every one of your course, right? These are the objectives, and my students need to, learn all of these. And then I think about, as a faculty, as an instructor, how do I measure? How do I know my students are achieve those learning objectives? So look at your learning objectives or learning outcomes. Make sure they're measurable, because if they're not measurable, then what kind of assessment can you build to measure? Okay, so that's one big piece of it. And we can easily do a half-day workshop on that piece, okay? But that is one of the most important components for your course. The second, as Dr. Adair shared earlier, is we put a lot of resources, times, technology, learning activities, everything put into our course, right? In order to help our students. But again, bear in mind, your goal is to help students achieve learning outcomes. And here comes to the principle of alignment. If something is in the course, it has to serve a purpose. You do not need to add anything just because, oh, it's a new technology, it's fancy, it's shiny, it's fun. That confuses students. Everything needs to serve a purpose. If it does not serve a purpose, hold on. Think about it. Why am I using this? Why am I adding this to the course? Okay, so starting from learning outcomes, and then you want to design your assessment. The assessment needs to be able to specifically measure, truly measure whether students have achieved learning outcomes. Everything else in between, the course material, the learning activities, or the tools, the resources, technology you put into the course, is only to serve the purpose of helping students achieve learning outcomes. And then the third piece is engagement, right? And also all the support. So, in the past, we, as a faculty, I have never left the school until I met QM, and then I joined QM. So I have been a faculty, and I was like, how can I teach better? So there is a paradigm shift here. How can I help my students learn? So everything needs to be centered, a student-centered. A learner is the center of everything. You are still the content expert, and you are the mentor, you are the professor, you guide them towards their active learning. Okay, so these are the major components that you can use the principle of alignment to help you improve at a course level. If you are a dean or if you are the leading faculty at a hybrid online program or even a face-to-face program, it's the same thing. First is instead of the course level, now you're looking at the program level, the program level competency, the program level outcome. And one particular program has 10, 20 courses. Are the course learning outcomes, competencies aligned well to support the students to achieve the program level outcomes? So that's one piece. That's one big piece. Okay. And then resource support, not just for students, for faculty as well. If they're teaching a hybrid online, program, you need to have all the resources in place that anytime they need, they are there. And of course, we need to look at how the programs are ensuring that the students enrolled in the online program are actually doing well, if not better, as the face-to-face program. So that's at the program level. And here, it's a quick screen to show a diagram of where QM fits. So we mentioned earlier that the course level is the foundation. That's where you come in. You are the foundation. You are the backbone of the entire institution. And then at the program, because you help students achieve the course level and the program level competencies, and all this data, all this good stuff, help the institution collect all the good data, right? Completion, graduation, student success, et cetera, et cetera. Now, QM, as we mentioned, we support faculty, we support you with your teaching and learning. So we provide you professional development, we do course review for you. So we help you to ensure the quality of teaching and learning at the course level, the foundation level. Then our program review, program certification ensures that the quality of your entire program is solid. So there's 4 pieces, right? On the program review, the teaching support, the learner support, and last but not least, the learner success. So all of this. So we have so many the past few years, every time we have a conference, we have so many institutions who do presentation to share how they use QM implementation data, including faculty professional development and course review, program review, all of those good data they use to be included as evidence to meet the requirements and the standards of their institutional accreditation needs. Okay,
and
great.
Ping, there was a question in the chat about micro credentials, and I don't know if there was a specific point that you were making about it. I'll let you answer that while we go on.
Sure.
And so I get the privilege of talking a little bit about the benefits of quality matters and quality assurance. And really, this is from the student and faculty perspective. So Yaping, if you would advance the slide. And I always like to talk about this because, well, like Yaping, I was a faculty member for many years, and most of my career was in the face-to-face classroom. And I can distinctly remember the first time that I had to teach a fully online course, and I remember feeling very lost because I was a very effective classroom teacher, and I did a lot of engagement and activities within my classroom. but I didn't have a clue as to how to do that, how to translate that for the online experience. And did have some opportunity to take training prior to having to develop and teach my course, but it was mostly focused on and around the LMS and how to use the different tools that were in it. And because it was all new to me. And I spent all of my time trying to figure out how to do that piece, and was still left with a lot of uncertainty and discomfort about um, whether what I was actually doing was translating for the students in that kind of environment. And I had one of the things that would you go back, Yeping, please? There we go. One of the things that it really occurred to me is that I was spending so much of my time just really trying to manipulate the things in the online space. And I wasn't actually spending a lot of time engaging with my students, which is what I had done on campus, but I couldn't figure out how to do it in the classroom. And that was one of the things that I felt was a real gift when I learned about Quality Matters, because it's not focused on the technology. It is about it is about a state of mind and how to think about how students experience online education, and how to think about the kinds of learning experiences you're trying to create and how to do that online, just using some simple principles. And so it is actually why I went to work for Quality Matters, because I saw that as a really important pathway, because what I want and what every instructor I've ever talked to wants is to help their students succeed. And it's painful to see your students struggle in an online or blended classroom, because you don't know exactly how to be able to construct things so that it seems more seamless for them. And so the impact for students, and we have over the years collected both anecdotal information from faculty, and there's been various research that's done. And one thing I should point out here, Quality Matters does, we're supporting the institution with tools and advice, and we're supporting faculty with professional development workshops and courses. But nowhere in this do we actually have access to any student data. And so it's up to the institution. In some cases, it's up to the individual instructor, the faculty member, who want to do some kind of before and after study, or want to actually do some scholarship of teaching and learning for within their own discipline, let's say, to look at if what they are doing is making a difference for their students. And so what you see on the screen here are things that we have learned both from the anecdotal information that's been shared over the years and from the actual research projects that have been done by the individuals and institutions that participate in QM. So we have seen there have been numerous studies that talk about higher GPA and overall grades. And grades aren't the only or even the best indicator of success for students, but it is an indicator, right? And it matters for students because that's the currency that we all use in higher ed. We see greater student engagement. And I think that's really what we're all after, and what's so critical in in the online classroom. And for students, what there's really three ways to think about engagement. There's engagement with the content in the course, the actual material. There's engagement with their peers, the other students in the course, and there's engagement with the instructor. And as I think there was comment in the chat, all students want to be engaging with their instructor. They want to feel the instructor's in the classroom, because the instructor is the core. The instructor is the faculty member is the expert. So having processes to be able to increase that engagement, even with the instructor, is really important. And we've seen that. We've seen things like, more engagement in the actual online activities and the submission assignments. We've seen increased student interaction, student material, and student instructor. Lower withdrawal rates. I have a number of institutions that that measure the DFW rates, the Ds, the Fs, and the withdrawal rates as a kind of combined measure. And those have been reduced after, after creating courses that can model the kind of coherence and quality that the standards suggest. And of course, student evaluations are higher. Okay, and for the institution, because the institution should be measured on a lot of those student benefits that I just went over. But then how do you build that up? And I think this is what Yaping was talking about when she was talking about the pyramids and how there's alignment between each level of the course, the program, and the institution. It is all aligned, and it does all matter as it builds up. And so for the institutions, when more faculty are engaged in this work and their courses are improved, their students are benefited, and it does have this escalating kind of benefit. But even more specifically than that, we're engaged now with some US accreditors to be able to help the reviewers see the very tight alignment between the work that institutions are doing with the Quality Matters tools and the processes that they're putting in place for assurance and the institutional accreditation, that it's evidence of that. And faculty engagement in this professional development is evidence for accrediting bodies that there are quality processes in place. That the ability to benchmark against peer institutions, that's frankly one of the things that certification mark does, is it says any course that carries that mark has been reviewed against the exact same standards and with the exact same methodology of review. And it's an ability to kind of compare. So in our registry, you can see all kinds of courses have been able to achieve that certification and across very different types of institutions. And so being able to and then institutions have built a sort of a systematic quality assurance process around these tools. Quality as institutional culture. One of the things that we hear a lot is about the language of quality matters, and it seems like a silly thing, right? But for faculty who are experts in their discipline, who are subject matter experts, and you have the language and the jargon around the things that you study and you teach. Sometimes it's hard to share a common language in teaching and learning across those different disciplines. And for some institutions, QM has played that role. So when they talk about quality, it's across context, it's across discipline, because they use the QM terminology, the QM the QM language, even some shorthands, they refer to standard numbers, but it is so that they know that they're talking about the same thing, because I would say in higher ed, we really have a hard time with definitions. And sometimes we talk past each other because we mean different things when we use the same words. And it is a benefit of QM for institutions where the faculty are engaging this, and the faculty are coming from different disciplines with different languages and different approaches and different terminology, and then it unites them. And that is an ability to kind of build from that. It is a starting place. It's not the end place for a quality culture. And then the other items here, adopting and adapting based on resources, this is about being able to contextualize this to your needs and your culture within your institution, your institutional culture, or your country culture, or it's infinitely adaptable. Faculty-centered governance and engagement. One of the things is that the process that QM uses and the tools were built hand in hand with faculty, right? And so that's why faculty are at the center of the peer review process. That's why we have professional development for faculty, because faculty are the core to quality. And so the QM process kind of puts them in the center of that. Opportunities for ongoing faculty development are really important for the institutions. And of course, ultimately, what we're all trying to do together with this is to improve the courses and programs so students are successful. So this is one of the slides that we're not going to take a time to go to each of these web pages, but happy to show any of these to you when we get to the end of this part of the presentation. So QM is very committed to research. Research we curate and through literature reviews and different sources, through surveys and through other kinds of research we either conduct or sponsor. So it's important that we don't get out ahead of the research, which is kind of, as you can imagine, is sort of challenging today as best practices are really evolving quickly. And so that just means that we need to be engaged in action research, and it can't all be done by, literature reviews on peer-reviewed research, but there has to be a balance of that so we can stay current. But we do try hard to convey information about the research because we want faculty and our member institutions to engage in research on their own as well. We want to make these materials available. So these are available to anybody actually on our website, not just member institutions. So we have curated research resources by sort of what is it that you want to know about QM? Is it, do you want to see the literature reviews that we've done over the years? Do you want to see the white papers that do a really deep dive on a particular topic? Do you want to see thematic research on a particular topic like QM impact, right? So we've tried to curate that to make it easier to find that research. And we also have a research library, which is sort of a living library that we continue to add citations to. So you can search in that library by QM standard to see the research that is aligned with or supports that particular standard. Or you could search by keyword like engagement, for example. And we have, I don't know, we have well over 1,000, well over 1,500 curated citations in there that if you want to do a deeper dive or you just want to see that there's a research foundation, you can go in and look. Another resource is presentations from our broader community. We do an annual conference every year called QM Connect. It's our big conference, and we do some smaller ones. And the presentations come from the community and the kinds of best practice and innovation that's happening out there. And that's a wealth of resources, and those are available. We make those available to everybody, searchable on our website. And we have our version of an annual report. We are a nonprofit organization. I don't know if we said that at the beginning. And so we don't publish like a financial annual report like a for-profit corporation would, but we do an annual report about our activities and really focused on the community and the member activities. So you can see, what sort of some kind of highlight certain institutions depending on what they're engaged in, and then sort of the numbers and the statistics and the data and that kind of thing. And then this final one, the Chloe surveys, we have done this annual survey. We're just analyzing the results from the 7th annual survey for Chloe. Chloe stands for the Changing Landscape of Online Education. And it's been focused in the US, so it's a US-centric analysis, but to look at the evolution of online education over the years, about its management and its practice, and different studies different years may focus on something a little different. And as you can imagine, in 2020, we focused on remote learning and the pandemic and what happened. And all of those surveys are available on our website as well. And I think one of the things that I will call out from this is the Chloe 5 and to some extent Chloe 6, I'm sorry, talked about the takeaways from that are that as you can imagine, what we learned was those institutions that had engaged and invested in online education and especially in having faculty opportunities for professional development and having some resources and structures, but having experts, having built a cadre of experts on their campus, had a much easier time transitioning to remote learning during the pandemic, even though they still had a significant portion of their faculty who had never taught online. They were able to use all of their experts, their faculty who had learned and engaged and practiced to help other faculty, and it made for a much more successful transition. And then of course, what we've in Chloe 6 in particular learning about, the interest in so many institutions and not going backwards but continuing to go forwards, and their plans for growing online programs and interest in different sort of the continuum of modality from face-to-face to synchronous but online to and hybrid and then fully online and so on. So we kind of keep an eye on what's happening in the field. We do that in collaboration with a research company called EduVentures. So instead of hearing from me, we thought you might want to hear from an instructor and a student about what it means for them.
I'm Stephanie Diemel, and I teach physics and astronomy here at Shoreline, and I'm a Quality Matters Master Reviewer.
My name's Caitlin Sells. The types of classes I took at Shoreline were 100% online. I completed my whole 2-year degree just through online courses.
Quality Matters is a set of tools for improving and developing online courses. To me, it's also a community of faculty and learners and researchers that are all kind of in it together in the spirit of improving online education.
Seeing the QM certification on her homepage was really a sign to me that it was, a quality course. Everything was laid out really neatly, week by week. It was super easy to go through and say, okay, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. This is, the video I'm supposed to watch, the lecture I'm supposed to watch, the reading I'm supposed to be doing, and then the assignment. And it was all just really consistent.
Having a course that is QM certified shows that the course is a learner-friendly course, that it's friendly, open, and transparent to learners, that the course is logical, it makes sense as far as its layout.
Every single online student would benefit from courses designed with QM principles in mind. Course alignment, I think, is really important, knowing that what you're learning is related to course outcomes, that it's related to the material you're learning for the week.
So when learners approach my class now, I feel like they're approaching something that they can see from the beginning all the way through. They see not only the content, but they can easily navigate the structure and see their way to success in the class, which is a great thing.
Students do notice the difference, and taking that extra time to do a program like QM or put that extra effort into making sure things are organized and really clear makes a huge difference to students, even if they don't say anything.
I'm Stephanie Diemel, and I believe that quality matters.
Thank you, Yeping, for sharing that. And
Sorry. Keep going.
tricky. It's okay. All right. And I will say those were, voluntarily provided because we have a member community, institutions, and the faculty and staff that participate who are very enthusiastic around what they're doing. And so we do have an opportunity. They share things with us all the time. So that wasn't developed for us, but we do obviously like to use it because we think it makes a powerful statement. So I'm going to say a few things about the faculty role, and then I'll pass it over to Yeping. So if you'll advance the slide, Yeping. So if I haven't said this enough, I'm going to say it again. The faculty's role is critical in terms of quality teaching and learning. It can't be had without faculty. It can't be driven without faculty. And it starts with faculty being the content expert, right? The authority and the curator of the knowledge. And it is what institutions like to hold up to stakeholders, to accreditors and students and others of their faculty expertise. And that is front and center. And I think, when Quality Matters first started out, I think faculty, this was in the early days when I would be the one going out to some campuses and having conversations. And I'd always get sort of these three things that faculty would say. They would look at the standards and they would say, well, that's just good teaching. Of course you would do those things, right? And second, they would say, okay, well, how come we don't have to do this for all of our courses? How come we're not having to do this for our face-to-face courses? And my answer to that was always, well, actually, you should. You just wouldn't do the review part of it. And then in fact, we find that happening, right? That's one of the things that we find at the end of this, particularly from faculty who are engaging as reviewers, who are reviewing others' courses and going through the review process themselves. They are going back and they were making changes to their face-to-face courses because of sort of the new way of thinking around this. To be successful online, it requires you to think differently, and that way of thinking also benefits your face-to-face students too. And we do exit surveys at the end of every course that validate this. So I'm not just saying it, it really is true. But we respect the faculty as content experts. You won't find standards in the rubric that are about your actual content and what you're choosing to teach. So it's respecting that. And that's, what we're trying to do is create that as the centerpiece of the course so that students can really engage in and learn from your knowledge and expertise. So it's about engaging students and facilitating active and meaningful learning. And this is part of what I was saying about thinking about things a little differently, because you have to do this purposefully online. And sometimes, and I'm going to say this as an instructor on campus, even though I tried hard to do activities and so on, my mental model was always, I have to cover the content. The content is what matters here. I have to make sure that I am covering the content, and I'll try to find some more interesting ways to do it. I wasn't thinking about it from the learning perspective, right? And part of that means being able to really engage the students actively in that learning. And so that's one of the points. Faculty are critical in being able for the institution and then the students to achieve the goals, the programmatic goals, and to develop those competencies. That comes from the instructor because the course is designed around your knowledge set and your own expertise and being able to meet those goals. And then and I think this is what Yeping mentioned before, that it does contribute to the advancement of the entire institution because it drives student success and their satisfaction, their completion, and graduation. All right. And there's a couple of ways to think about how faculty participate in quality course design. One is a course is in actually engaging in that development or redevelopment or improvement of a course that's aligned to the QM standards, and thinking about how to reimagine your course in ways that it can effectively meet those standards and build it on the alignment principle to make sure there's full coherence between what you're doing in that classroom, what students are doing in the classroom, the online classroom, and what the learning objective that they're pursuing. And then another way for faculty to really engage is to actually have their courses reviewed, or and there are multiple ways to do this, by the way. There's only not just the one path to QM certification that exists. So we provide tools for faculty and for institutions to engage around the course review process in ways that fit their context. So we have tools that faculty can conduct self-reviews, right? So that maybe you just want to go through your course and sort of kind of look and evaluate how well you're meeting that particular, you think you're meeting that particular standard. And you can annotate and make comments about where you think there are opportunities for improvement. You can keep that for yourself, or you can send it to an instructional design team or whomever you want to share that with. So those are the things that are really important. And another way is internal reviews. Most of our institutions, in fact, do some kind of internal review process, and they do it in different ways. Some actively use faculty, some will do it sort of within an instructional design team, but it's about creating these internal processes to be able to do some initial review. And many institutions will do that prior to sending a course to Quality Matters for an official review, just to ensure that there's been adequate time internally to be able to have those conversations about the course and improve it. Now, the official reviews are the only ones eligible for the certification, because like I said, that certification means that course not only met all of the standards, but in the same method, using the same methodology, which means that, the characteristics of the review team and the characteristics of the process. But there are two ways to do that even. So we have a QM managed review, simply means that the QM staff will sort of, will assign a review team and then, manage that process through. Subscriber managed means that the institution manages and selects the review team, still according to our criteria. But it's a way for, it is a more economical way for the institution, if they have appropriately trained staff, to be able to manage it themselves. But it's both cases, it relies on a peer review team who are doing the review, and those reviewers have to have the same criteria. It's just who is managing the process. And then QM certified courses, like I mentioned, we have the registry about these certified courses. We keep them on for 5 years because the certification is good for 5 years, and there's an opportunity for recertification and an expedited process for another 3 years. Is it, Yaping? I think that's right. So once they're too old, they roll off. And in many cases, what we found are, by that time, institutions have either fully redeveloped the course, or they've decided not to offer that particular course. So only a smaller percentage actually get recertified, because the institution and the faculty member may have done something different, totally different with that course by then. And we even have some of these courses have been, that are offered in different languages, have also been certified if Quality Matters has access to certified reviewers that are fluent in that particular language. And I think this is my last one, I think. Yep, Ping, before I pass this over to you. Or is this, yeah. So this is the, I won't go through this in detail because this is probably the third time you've seen this slide. But I will make a slightly different point here, is that the, faculty's involvement in the review process goes all the way through. So if it's your course that's being reviewed, you're involved at the beginning to make sure that before the peer reviewers start, they are oriented to your course. And we do that with a sort of an intake form, a worksheet that you can tell people about your course, tell the reviewers about your course, the things that may make it unique. And we have a questionnaire that you would fill out. And then there's a meeting before the peer reviewers start to go over that, to make sure that anything that's unique in your course and any questions the reviewers have about that worksheet, you have that opportunity to have the conversation. And then the reviewers will engage in the review, and they go in. This is an asynchronous review, so they have about 3 weeks for that part of it. The reviewers will go in on their own, and they make their recommendations and evaluations within our tool set, which then when they're done, it aggregates all of the comments and totals the review points and so on. But during that process, and this is why there's a master reviewer, chair of that review team, if there are questions for the instructor, the faculty member whose course is getting reviewed, they get asked. This is not a closed review. So the instructor has an opportunity to be part of that review team, not to make any of the decisions about whether the standard has been met, but to answer all of the questions the reviewers might have, so that it can be as helpful a review as possible, because that's the goal. So when the reviewers are done and that feedback is provided, and I mentioned in the chat, we look at that as a gift, right? Because how often do you get to have peers look at your course and give you good feedback about not just what you could do to improve, but what they found to be, to be a highlight, or what they thought was excellent. And we see this a lot, and this feedback can be very robust. And one of the things that we learned in that exit survey is that our faculty are telling us that service on this review team is one of their best professional development experiences they've ever had, because they get to see how other faculty approach, whether it's their subject or not, right? They get to see how other faculty approached a pedagogical issue, or how they did something, and it gives them ideas for how to improve their own course, right? So it is this real learning experience that happens once you're, on the reviewer side of things as well. But this continuous cycle means that faculty whose course is under review can take the feedback, can make the changes, and still have that course meet standards, because that's the point. The point of the review is course improvement. And we want to provide that opportunity in that review cycle to do it. So it's the chair of the review team that will look at the changes that come back, if changes are needed, and determine whether they have been met so the course can meet standards. So there's robust involvement of the faculty throughout, whether you're a reviewer or it's your course that's being reviewed.
Yes. Thank you, Deb, so much. Deb always saved the best parts for me. So so I can, because I know that, as faculty, you are waiting for this, right? So so UAEU joined the QM last April, so it's almost a year now, and you are on full membership, which means you can do so much. And as faculty, by now you should be fully aware that everything that QM does, all of our processes, etc., fully involve faculty, because you are the peer. So peer reviewer, workshop facilitator, everything really. So the next few minutes, I'm going to share as a faculty, what are the pathways and what are the QM roles that you can actually have. So first we talk about course design, the standards, right? So you as a faculty, you are the expert, you are the content, content expert, but you can also become your course design instructor design expert. So there's a pathway for you to become a peer reviewer, as we mentioned already quite a few times. You can become a QM certified peer review. So the specific requirements are, first, you will complete a workshop, and it's called APPQMR, Apply the QM Rubric. And this is our foundation workshop. It really gives you the opportunity to look deep into this rubric and really gain insight and how to use the rubric, the annotations for your course review, and how to use them to improve your own course design, etc. So that is the first one. Once you complete the APPQMR, Applying QM Rubric, the second workshop you can take is called a Peer Reviewer course, PRC. And in the PRC, you actually get an opportunity to practice as if you are a reviewer. You will be given an opportunity to look into a sample course and use the rubric to actually review the course, every one of those standards. So it's a very comprehensive, very robust course for you. Now, once you completed these 2 workshops, and if you meet the criteria, you are from a member institution, you already are, and then you have online hybrid teaching experience at a higher education institution, then you can apply to become officially the QM certified peer reviewer. Deb has mentioned, one of the best benefits to be a reviewer is to actually learn something every time you review course. And I can speak this for myself. Before I joined QM as a staff, I was a peer review, I was a master review. Every time I get to review a course from other institutions, even if the course is not perfect, and even if that course did not meet all the QM standards to be QM certified, I still always learn something, something that they're doing, something that the way the instructor is facilitating or interacting, it's always something I can learn. And then the other benefit is you are in the community, and of course, we also pay you a little stipend. It's not much, but it's just a token to show QM's appreciation for your time and for your contributions to the community. So you become a peer reviewer and you get opportunities to participate in 2 official reviewers. And then the next step is for you to become a master reviewer, okay? And that title has been cherished so much. Again, I'm speaking for myself. I carry my master review title everywhere I went before I joined QM. I was like, yeah, I'm a master reviewer. I can do this and that. So it's really a role that's being considered highly and has been cherished by the community. So as a master review, after you have completed 2 official reviews, you are eligible to take the master review certification course, another workshop, so that you can become a master review. And the difference between the master review and the peer review, you can still be invited to serve as a regular peer review in any course. However, as a master reviewer, you get to chair, you get to function as a chair for a course review team. So that's that. And I think this we also have mentioned here and there. As your university started to get on this QM journey, the first thing you want to do is, send some faculty to have some PD and become peer review, so you can start establish or improve an internal course review team and the course review process. And you can start with some basic standards. So I mentioned earlier, just about half of those 42 standards are essential standards. So to make things a little bit easier, to ease everybody in, you can actually compose an internal review team and focus on the essential standards first. And as more and more faculty get on board, become more comfortable, then you can add more standards. You can even add your own institutional very specific requirements or policies or standards from your own institution into the QM standards. So to do, when the time comes for you to do an official QM manager review, as we mentioned, there's so much benefit to it. One of the major benefits is you use this as a benchmark tool, right? Get all the recommendations so you can improve all of your courses moving forward. You can, and then because you are on QM4 membership, you can actually do, there's 2 kinds of official course review. One is called a QM managed. that means QM staff will manage the entire process for you. The other one, because your full membership already include the benefit of you as a member, you can manage your own official review. And I will give you a very good example here is the KKU, King Khalid University in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They are actually one of our longest tenure member outside the North American region, and they joined the QM in 2010. So it's been over 10 years, and they have always been on full membership. So they build internal capacity, have dozens of their faculty QM trained and certified as a peer review, and every official review they do is exactly following the QM official review process. So over the years, they have dozens and dozens of QM certified courses. And I will share a little video just a little bit later on. So on the full membership, and if you already have the infrastructure at your institution, as long as faculty are being trained, have this peer review, you can start to scale up your course review process in a course-effective way. So let me go on here. Okay, so that's course design, course development, course review to ensure the quality of the learning environments, really. Why we are investing so much money or investing so much time and energy resources into the course design is we want to provide a learning environment that is easy for students to start and continue and complete everything that they need to do in the course. Now, as a faculty, just because the course is well designed, the course does not run by itself, and it should not run by itself. You are still the professor, right? You are the one who can help, who can facilitate active learning. So Deb mentioned earlier about engagement, and engagement, students of course want to engage with you as the professor. Students need to engage with the content, right? Because that's what things they need to learn. And if it's appropriate, you as a faculty can design learning activities so that students can interact with students. Because you think about it, once the students leave your university, graduated, have a very high GPA, they're so happy, find a good job, they need to work in teams, right? Nowadays, there's rarely a job that you can do by yourself in any company. So everything that's in the course needs to be designed purposefully and meaningfully. So even at the very basic level, the students interact with the content, and that's because the learning objective says, they need to learn this and that. So as a faculty, you need to connect the learning outcomes or learning objectives with the content and why. So you need to make those learning activities meaningful to students, and that is your job. Okay, and of course, a learner, students want to interact with you, and we have seen in many communities that faculty were so enthusiastic. There's like, okay, now that I have this QM certified course, I'm going to really help students. So they try to answer and respond to every student's posting. So if there's discussion questions, and if there's 20, 30, 40, even more students in the class, there is no way for you as a faculty to respond to every posting, and it's not necessary. There's best practice that the community has already accumulated. We can share those best practice with you so that you establish your teaching presence in the course. Students know that you are monitoring, you are present in the course, but you do not have to spend hours and hours and every day trying to respond to every student's posting. It's not necessary. You can spend your time and effort in other ways more effectively. So I will just share with that, and let's go on. Okay, so we have the technology, the course were designed. Now, what about engagement? Now, how do I ensure that my course are more, improving better, and how I myself can become a better and a more effective online instructor, faculty? So there's a various courses, workshops that QM provides for faculty, and based on your role and based on your goal. And as a faculty, I'm sure that every one of us know ourselves, right? You are the one that knows you the best. You have a good understanding of what areas that you want to further improve, you want to learn more, you want to learn from our colleagues. And mind you that the majority of the QM workshops are actually facilitated not by QM staff, by faculty who are exactly like you, but they have been specifically QM trained and they have been certified as a specific QM workshop facilitator. So when you enrolled in those workshops, you are not only learning the content as a student, you are actually the workshop facilitator will share their own experience, exactly as what Dr. Adair shared earlier. When she was faculty teaching face-to-face, she struggled. She learned a lot in order to become an effective online instructor. So you learn from real experience. You get to connect with other faculty, other online experience practitioners in the community who have been there, done that. Now they're ready to share. Okay, so here are just some quick examples of the workshops that we offer. We have DYOC, design your online course or hybrid course, or improve your course, or you say, I'm really struggling how to match my assessment and measurement, really to measure the learning outcomes or learning objectives. And the assessment piece is really, really big. So that's why we offer various kind of professional development. Also creating presence, as I mentioned earlier. You want to engage your students, but you do not have to spend 24 hours a day on your course. It's not necessary, and it is really not doable in the long run. So, and also accessibility is getting more and more attention, and because we need to address not only access but equity and inclusion, etc. So these are just a few examples of the PD QM offers. And we also have a QM TOC, Teaching Online Certificate. And the past couple of years, this has been becoming so popular, we can barely keep up because of the pandemic, ironically, right? So everybody say, yeah, no, I can teach online, right? But most of the community, the traditional face-to-face faculty have been teaching is remote instruction, remote teaching. So there is a gap between remote teaching and really quality online education, quality digital learning. So there are more and more universities, institutions need online instructors, good online instructors, even if they cannot hire more and more full-time faculty, but they want to hire part-time instructors or associates who can deliver specific courses in the online format. But on the paper, everybody says I have at least 2 years of online teaching experience. So what is the external way of just trying to get some validation on whether this instructor is good a fit for us? So many institutions are actually make this a requirement. Yes, we like your expertise in this area and we like your, everything. But if you want to teach online, we would encourage you to complete the QM TOC, the Teacher Online Certificate, so that we can hire you. So we're seeing more and more. So there's more and more institutions requiring TOC as an external validation for a faculty to teach online. And this is a very robust course, and it actually composed of 7 workshops, and we would recommend you take it in this order, but you don't have to, And if institutions are not keen on this, maybe it's too heavy, but maybe we have some faculty who want to take, 1 here and 2 there, that is fine too. You can take the whole thing, or you can take 1 or 2 or any number of combinations from this TOC. And as I mentioned earlier, most of our QM workshops are facilitated by QM certified facilitators like yourself. So you can become a QM certified facilitator. So in your full QM membership, the applying QM rubric, this license is already included in your membership. What you need to do is your dean can work with you. Maybe you can have some of you volunteer to become this APPQMR facilitator. So once you have that role, you can facilitate this official workshop to your institution, to faculty, staff at your own institution, anytime, as many sessions as you want. So it's really a good way to build the capacity and provide more official QM trainings in a more cost-effective way. And the other one is, so there's 2 ways. One is you can do this as a face-to-face traditional facilitator. The other way is to do it online. And the same person can have both roles as well. I'm keeping an eye on the time. We are run out quickly. So we mentioned the KKU, and I just want to take a minute to share KKU last year at the QM Connect conference. They become the first non-US institution award winner, and this is their video. So bear with me. I just want to play very quickly.
Established in 1998, King Khalid University of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is one of the biggest public universities in the Middle East. In 2010, King Khalid University decided to strengthen its nascent experience in online teaching and learning processes by ensuring quality in course design. To do so, King Khalid University formed a strategic and strong partnership with the Quality Matters organization. The successful implementation of QM leading to our success includes, but is not limited to, as a result of all the QM implementation initiatives, the quality of online courses based on QM rubric standards has become an institutional culture, and all courses have been designed to meet QM standards. Before 2015, 90% of the courses in the university were using Blackboard at the supported level. Between 2015 and 2019, 30% of our faculty members were involved in official QM professional development sessions. This has led to increased awareness and peer-to-peer training of the QM process. We really found it beneficial, and the majority of our faculty members are able to apply QM in their online courses. As soon as the QM Emergency Remote Instruction Checklist was developed and released in March 2020, We applied it in all the university colleges, in fact, at 100% minimum requirement for each and every course. The cumulative experience of the e-learning deanship at King College University created a strong environment of continuous improvement in terms of quality assurance of the fully online and blended courses design, delivery, and assessments. During the past 16 years, the e-learning deanship at King College University has become a powerful engine in supporting teaching and learning across the university for more than 55,000 students across 29 colleges. An example of the positive impact of QM on student success is a drastic reduction in the student withdrawal rate and significant improvement in the student completion rate. We are very proud of our partnership with QM and so delighted to have been recognized for this prestigious award. We are committed to ensuring the effective development of online courses and programs. With our group of experts at the Deanship of E-Learning, coupled with highly engaged faculty members in each college, we are well positioned to build on our quality assurance success in online teaching and learning in partnership with QM. This award means a lot to all university faculty members and employees and is the culmination of a continuous effort at the level of quality assurance of the university's online courses in partnership with QM.
So what an inspiration for all of us. So I am aware, I'm a little wordy, so let's move on here. Oops, sorry. Okay, so we have more resources, but for the sake of time, we won't go over, but we actually would love to invite you to join our QM Connect conference. This time is we are back in face-to-face in Arizona. So if you need more information, we'll be happy to share more. And last, I just want to share again, this is really a community. The past 2 years, Deb and I, QM staff, have had so many opportunities to engage. And we understand for some parts of the world, online teaching and learning is still relatively new. But I always say, just because it's new to you and you're a little bit late to the online field, it's really not a disadvantage. It is a huge advantage. The reason is because the research has been done for you. The best practices are here. All you need to do is to be open-minded and adapt the best practice and adopt it to meet your own unique needs. So I'm going to stop here. And now we have 20 minutes for Q&A.
Okay, thank you very much, Yaping. You've always a great presenter, and I think this is very informative, and we will take it from there within the college. And it's very inspirational to look at King Khalid's experience, and we're looking forward actually to be at the same level in the future. Apparently, I do not see any questions coming from the audience. We have a very quiet audience today. Now, I would like just to wrap up. If Deb and Yaping, if you have anything to wrap up with, that would be great. And the recording will be shared with the college as soon as it becomes available, all together with the slides, because they have hyperlinks that they might be needed by our faculty. The floor is back to you, Yaping and Deb.
Deb, you want to say a few words first, or do you want me?
Right, I'll say a few words, and then I can let you have you wrap everything up. But I think one of the points that I hope was clear, and I'll just reiterate, is that because this is a process that was really developed with strong faculty participation, and it revolves around faculty. It's important for faculty to understand that success depends on your engagement and your own creativity, because this is not a prescriptive process, and that the standards point the way, but it always amazes me how much creativity that there is in thinking about this standard. This is the principle, this is what we're trying to achieve, and then looking at all of the ways that the faculty experts have found to be able to meet that standard in a way that makes sense within their own disciplines and their own expertise. And so it is a way, it is just a way of thinking and a way of sort of organizing the course and abiding by the principles, but still gives faculty the ability to create the learning experience that they want their students to have. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you, Deb. There is a question coming from GE. Thank you very much for the detailed description of the framework and for the opportunities. It is scrolled up a little for us all. My question is, in addition to what we are doing now, which I assume that it's just documenting and submitting some kind of course portfolio for accreditation purposes, what new tasks we will be doing? Which document to start from for that? I do have an answer for this, but I prefer to have either you, Deb, or Yapping get into the big difference between documenting what is the course is all about and what we're talking about here.
I think this is such a common question, right? Because this is how we think about, we organize our course in the buckets, right? And then, but it is reconstructing. So if you're deconstructing your course into, let's say, these course files, the act of reconstructing it into an engaging online experience, it is more than just porting over that material into a different kind of bucket, right? Sometimes it's about rethinking how you are engaging the students about, how if there's a concept that you want to make sure that they learn, you may need to rethink about what are the things you could do online that online better supports than your on-campus platform does. How can you use the online platform to better engage your students? Because there are things you could do with that technology online that you can't easily do in your classroom. So it's an opportunity to really rethink how you do that work. In some institutions, and I don't know what your plans are at your own institution, but at some institutions, sometimes they'll develop a template, right? It's still not the same as porting over your material, but at least it's a template that can meet some of the standards, just with information about the department or the policies or the institutions, and so that you're able to focus even more narrowly on the learning piece of it. But essentially, it's about rethinking how are you going to get the student to be able to know and do the things you want them to do in that online platform. Ping, do you have a...
Yeah, GE, if you can email me, I can actually provide details about our plans and what is the difference here. Yapping, please.
Yes, so my background is actually instructional designer. I worked for more than 8 years as an instructional designer, and that was back in 1999. So it was more than 20 years ago, So instructional designer online education was very new at that time, but I will tell you a little story. I came down here for the interview, and at the last part of my interview, I was taken into downtown to meet the VPAA. So at the conclusion of our conversation, my will-be boss, Russ Atkin, actually, he gave me a piece of paper, and on the paper said, okay, here's the technology on this side, and here's the faculty teaching, face-to-face traditional courses. And Yaping, where do you see yourself on this thing? And I just said, I'm putting myself in the middle because I see there is a need for somebody like me, who has teaching background experience, but now, I'm going to serve as your lead instructional designer. And I want to fill the gap between all the technology and all the online pedagogy best practice here and versus here is faculty are teaching the traditional way. They are going to the classroom every day doing their lecture. So I was hired. So the takeaway here is that you as the faculty, teach the way you were taught back then, decades ago, right? You are the content expert. You do not need to do everything by yourself. You do not need to be a technology expert. So work with your instructional design team, work with your instructional technologies, and pick one or two of the PD workshop and go in and try it. Once you take one workshop, as so many faculty tell us, is that their mind, their eyes were just opened, because that's the way I always teach, and I think that's okay. But now I'm seeing there's so many opportunities. The students can be so can be engaged in such creative ways. I don't have to struggle. I can focus on teaching. I don't have to be worried that they cannot log in, they cannot find the stuff, they don't know where to submit, when to submit, because the background, the course design, the learning environment has been taken care of. Now I'm a professor, now I can really teach. Okay, so I just want to add that.
Thank you very much, Yaping. And at this point, I do not see any more questions. So here is one from Martez. You mentioned more than one time the concept of contextualization. Do you find the issue is quite emphasized, needs deep restructuring in the Middle East universities?
Yes, so I will take that one, and Dr. Adair can add to it. I think Deb has mentioned in her portion of the presentation, we have one particular Saudi institution. They also joined the QM pretty early on, I think in 2013 or 2014. So back then, as we know, other than the Saudi Electronic University who were allowed to offer online courses and program, nobody were allowed to do that. But they joined the QM anyway, and they have the infrastructure. So what they did was, and for this particular presentation, I don't have a screen, but what they did was they create a task force composed mostly of faculty. They just give them this page, ask them to read, look around and to see what standards make sense for us. And of course, they send some faculty for some training, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, that was probably 2015, I want to say. They have their own version of web enhanced courses using QM standards, but only the essential standards, only those 20 some essential standards. And they create a course template and they populate it to every one of their course shells. They say, if you want to teach for the university, we want you to use this course shell. We have all the resources, everything that we have, the shell is set up for you. All you need to do is to, put it in the learning outcomes and put in content and assessment, etc. So that went on for a few years. And then they took the next step is to add more standards and to do hybrid program. And just before the pandemic happened, they were going to try to do more, be ready to go on full online, and then the pandemic happened. So at that particular institution, the story that we heard is that their faculty had a much easier time in the transition because they were already using technology. They already know the QM. They already have their content in their course shells. So it was much easier to pivot from face-to-face to the remote instruction. And now they are doing a hybrid online program because the e-learning, the National E-Learning Center, and work with the Saudi Minister of Education. Now they have 2 tiers of certification. One is at the program level, one is at the institutional level, that institutions can apply in order to officially offer online and hybrid courses and programs. So yeah, so yes, it can be adapted. Once you are a member, you can use the standards, the rubric, however way you can use, and we can continue to provide consultations like this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would like to repeat my thanks to all the participants, and a great thanks to our 2 presenters. And I believe that the recording of this session will be like a reference to all of our faculty to refer to whenever they have any questions, and I will make sure that it will be available. Thank you very much for spending your afternoon with us, and looking forward to see you again, hopefully face-to-face next time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Look
Enjoy
forward
the
to it.
rest of the day. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
you.
Have a good evening.
You too.